Okay, you've had a beer. I've had a little bit of CBD oil and some anti-diarrhea medicine. I think we're ready to rock.
Well,
That's the energy I'm
that's
bringing.
a rocking night, that is. Welcome to the podcast, the Marvelless Podcast, where we give you films to watch that aren't Marvel.
Yes. Hello, welcome to the Marvelless Podcast, our superhero movie detox podcast, where we decide whether the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, is better than the rest of cinema, one film at a time. I am your co-host, Josh.
I'm your other co-host, Lauren.
And today we are reviewing Iron Man versus...
The Menu.
Yeah, hey. Iron Man from, 2008?
8.
Wow, The Menu from last year.
Yeah, 2022.
2022, yeah. Where did you
Wow.
see Iron Man in the cinema?
I didn't.
I don't think I saw it in the cinema either.
I remember seeing a trailer for it on the TV, and I was like, what on earth is that? That is the stupidest looking thing I've ever seen in my life. I am never watching that, ever. And I vividly remember being like, oh my God, never going to watch that. Because Lee was really excited about watching it. I was like, no, not watching it with me.
I genuinely think, I remember seeing it on TV, the film, and maybe a relative having it on DVD. But I remember not caring about it, like any of it, until the first Avengers movie, really?
Yes, exactly. I was literally about to say the same thing. Had no clue about it, and I remember my flatmate at uni was like, oh my God, the Avengers movie, this is the coolest thing ever. And I borrowed like his DVD, and then I watched it, and that was like, wow. And then I needed to consume everything pre-Avengers after that.
No. Yeah, the same for me. I've always liked comics, and this is probably going to come up throughout all of this journey, especially Spider-Man. I like Spider-Man comics. But obviously Iron Man for Captain America are not Spider-Man. So no real interest in watching any of that.
Yeah.
Was the Amazing Spider-Man films were around the same time, weren't they? Like that similar period.
I think they're a little bit after.
A bit
I want to say
later.
2010, maybe.
Yeah, more Avengers era than early Iron Man, but
Yeah.
yeah. On the other take two. What is your history with The Menu? On the other hand, compared to Marvel stuff.
I mean, I watched. No, I saw a lot of people talking on, I think it was on TikTok maybe, about it, saying that it was like really crazy and really messed up, and from there it had like really good reviews. So I was like, oh, that's a film, that's one of those films that I put on my list that I needed to watch, and then never kind of really got around to watching it until I really forced myself to.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, I was listening to another podcast, and someone recommended they were talking about films you should watch without knowing anything about, and they said The Menu and Barbarian are both films that don't watch a trailer for, just watch. And take no preconceptions in there. I will say this evening as I was leaving work, I did watch the trailers for Iron Man and The Menu.
Did you?
Yeah. And both of those trailers give, I know it's obviously a cliche, but they give everything about those films away. Literally every twist in The Menu is in the trailer.
No way.
Yeah, and I was like, why would anyone watch this film?
Oh no.
It gives away every exciting thing that happens in it, and it makes it all seem so lame as well.
Yeah, trailers are too much like that now these days. Just like you can watch a trailer and like, well, that's the entire film.
Yeah, it's. I'm trying to think of trailers with like unique footage made for the trailer. They don't really do that anymore, do they?
No, they did that for like Infinity War, didn't they?
Yeah, they like. I think of the shot with the Hulk.
Yeah.
Who is?
There was a Hulk there that wasn't there, or
the
other way around.
Yeah.
So controversial.
So, Lauren, it feels very random. What links the two films, Iron Man and The Menu?
The theme that links these two movies is my wealth is evil.
Yes. Legacy, revenge, and wealth. The thing that has made me incredibly wealthy is also inherently very evil. It was interesting approaching both of these films and viewing it through that lens. Did you find that when you were watching them?
Yeah, I mean, especially with Iron Man, it just gave me a different way of looking at it, especially for Tony, when he's just kind of like, after he's had like his turning point, and how he feels about everything after that is just really, heartwarming, and he just wants to do the right thing and he can't.
Yeah. So, shall we start with shall we just do a little plot synopsis of Iron Man? Iron Man, to me, started with the biggest twist of the movie. Can you guess what it was?
You go for it.
The Paramount logo.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god, yeah, Paramount used to do these. It's like, it's all Marvel Studios now. Like back, it was so like interesting to go back to this era when no one knew these films were going to do what they were going to do.
Yeah, it was just kind of, there was probably like a little independent thing. They were like, let's just pump some money into this train, see what we could go for, and then, it just takes over the world. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. That film, from my understanding, basically got all of its money to do the special effects. Like, all the money went on making it look amazing, which is something we'll circle back around to, is how it looks. But, like, which meant they couldn't write a lot of it, so they ended up improvising most of it.
No way.
Yeah, like, in the morning, Jon Favreau, Robert Downey Jr., and Jeff Bridges would figure out the kind of scenes together.
That's just mad.
Yeah, and you couldn't do that with a Marvel film now. You couldn't be like, oh yeah, we're going to kind of just figure this out as we're making it. I mean, that's the kind of vibe most of them have now, is we're figuring this out as we're making it.
No, that is true.
But like, they're saying that I understand in Ragnarok there was a lot of improv as well, wasn't there?
Yeah.
From my understanding.
I can tell.
Yeah.
I'm sure they just stand there just quipping at each other the whole time and go, that was fine, we'll just use that one.
One of those 20 selections will be good enough. So, Iron Man 1. We start with the Paramount logo. Josh stands up and goes, "What the hell? The Paramount logo." I sit back down. I remember that the film starts in a period where we were still very focused on the Iraq and war in Afghanistan and things like that, and that came with a bit of a cultural gut punch as well. I will say one thing about the first 20 minutes of this. It is like it starts with a Back in Black, which is a very funny song to start a film with. Like, to me, like, back from what? The first 20 minutes, like, characterize Tony perfectly.
That is literally what I wrote down. I said, like, what did I write? I said it does so much it's like in the first 16 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, you have a full past breakdown at the awards. You understand his personality. you also understand that he's a bit of a, prick.
Yeah. I did write sex pest Tony on my notes.
Oh, Tony. And then he really truly believes that like he's creating weapons to like protect America. And this is just like in the first 16 minutes. That's so much information about a character. And I don't think like you say, it's like improvised. I feel like that was so well written.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it is everything that happens before the words Iron Man appear on screen. It could stop there and it'd be like, oh, that's the best short film I've ever seen in my life. Like, it is... Everyone is so charismatic, and again, something that's probably going to come up a lot in the podcast is like superhero movie fatigue. It just feels like everyone in the movie really cares. Like, everyone's really, really trying to sell the material.
Yeah.
Because there's no assumption that you give a shit about it.
Apart from Rhodey.
Yeah. Oh, well, we'll come to Rhodey when Rhodey appears. Everything happens. We meet Tony Stark. He's currently showing off his latest weapon of war in the Middle East. Tony's showing off a cool missile that he's made. Then he's getting transported to back home, I guess. And then one of his missiles blows him up. Oh, sweet irony. He awakens. And I'm reading it like a screenplay here. He awakes in a cave with a car battery strapped to his chest. In a scene that I forgot how much like body horror there is when he's having like the flashes of them doing the surgery on his chest.
Oh yeah, and they're like dunking his head in the water and he's being like electrocuted by his own like device.
Yeah. It's like I forgot that like this film's kind of like they really, when Disney took over, they really did like mallow a lot of it out, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean that's like real kind of like prisoner of war.
Yeah,
it's vibes.
Yeah, it's obviously still for children, but it has got the whole film's got like a really sharp, gritty, grainy edge to it.
Yeah,
like. Again, we could probably debate the politics of it for hours, but for a film that is, at its heart, kind of got an anti-war message, it makes war look ugly.
Definitely. It's got like this sort of like underlying dark tone to it, where there's lots of light and like comedy in there. There's just sort of like this really dark undertone throughout the whole film that they kind of sort of like always revisit. Like they go through these light patches and then they revisit that really dark, sort of like really actual horrible events, and they sort of like constantly bring it back to those kind of things. And then those are the kind of things that, you know, what Iron Man is needed for.
Yes. So he wakes up. He's got a battery in his chest. What's the name of the scientist in the cave, Lauren?
Jensen, is that right?
Yeah, something like that. I wrote something like that down.
Poor Jensen. Oh.
Yeah. Well, I've got stuff to say about Jensen in a minute when we get to it. So Jensen says that he's made essentially an electromagnet in Tony's chest, which is keeping shrapnel from destroying his heart. Which, again, I forgot that's like a core piece of the Iron Man character.
That he's just constantly about to die.
Yes.
And his life is just impending death.
Yeah. Tony says, that's pretty good, but I reckon I can make a better one. So then he builds a nuclear reactor the size of like a hockey puck.
Yes.
Which I could suspend my disbelief for it. Like,
I think he's just showing you. They're just showing you his true genius. Like he can build that in a cave.
Yeah, this is a man that's going to figure out time travel in 10 years' time. I can forgive this. It's fine. It's a film for children. Let's not worry about it. And then it turns out the terrorists want him to make the kind of missile he was showing off. It's called a Jericho, I think, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah, Jericho missile.
And so whilst he's making them their missile, he secretly starts making some kind of mechanical gentleman suit.
Yeah.
A mechanized fella. A name for this will appear at some point, I'm certain. And then he decides he's going to escape using his robo armor.
Yeah.
Jensen, because something's going on with the software when they fire it up, Jensen has to distract them with a machine gun.
Yeah, Jensen realizes that there's no other way, and he, lets that program load slowly while he runs off shout his machine gun.
Yeah, I forgot that like OG like Mark 1 Iron Man suit has like a robot in it. Has like a computer in it. Like I thought in my head, we just added Jarvis so we had someone to talk to. But like
I didn't realise there was a computer inside
Yeah,
there. I thought he was just wearing the suit.
Well, but he's like loading a program into it that makes the suit work, isn't he?
Oh,
So
true.
that's why he has Jarvis in his suit to make it work.
Yes.
Yeah. And then Tony goes through the compound he's in, blowing up terrorists left, right, and centre. They do the Han Solo corridor joke, where he runs around a corner and then there's lots of enemies. He then discovers Jensen's body. Jensen's bleeding out. And it's a very emotional scene that was really undercut for me this time when I noticed that he was covered in rice.
Isn't he just like laying on loads of rice packets?
Yeah,
Is that what he's doing?
Yes, he's laying on rice and he's got rice on him. And I was like, this is very sad, but again, this might be the first time I've ever seen this film in HD.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, and I was like, he's covered in rice.
No, I thought he was like laying on rice packets. I didn't notice that the rice was sort of like all over him.
It's not like he's lying in rice pudding, but there is distinctive bits of rice on it. Yeah, so Tony says bye to Jensen. Jensen says something very profound that I didn't write down.
And man who... Oh, no, that was before he died.
What did he say there?
Man who has everything and yet nothing, but that's before he died.
Oh, yeah.
Just ignore that.
I was thinking about, everyone's got all this technology in this film, but no one's got an iPhone.
It's 2008.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. He's got this Iron Man suit.
2008, I think, it was when the iPhone took off. So like everyone had like a cool flip phone.
Yeah. So he escapes from the compound, flies away, gets discovered by the American government who have been looking for him for the past period of time.
I want to say like a couple of weeks. I
Yeah.
feel like he wasn't there for an extended period.
Yeah, I'd say hopefully less than a month.
Yeah.
He gets on a plane, asks for an American cheeseburger, something that will come up later, maybe in the menu. Ooh. I've just wrote here the CGI is awful. I don't know what that's in reference to. That might be in reference to. It's in the same note about how everyone's using a flip phone. I think maybe
the cheeseburger wasn't CGI.
Yeah, this is the most expensive cheeseburger ever invented by computer technology.
It wasn't the ship coming down, was it?
Oh, it could have been. It could have been. I made a note there that there's some really bad CGI.
Oh.
So yeah, Tony comes back from the Middle East, says, "Good news, guys. I'm not doing weapons of war anymore." And then Jeff Bridges, who for me is so charismatic in this movie. It goes without saying because he's an amazing actor, but he really shines in this.
Yeah.
Like he is such a good, like, oh, I'm a mate of your dad kind of.
Yes. He has like so many different levels as that character. He goes like from like his best pal, to like a father figure, to like this really menacing dude, and it's like just a credit to his acting of like how all these different levels that he's going through like constantly. It's really awesome.
Yeah, there's then some really funny TV parodies about Tony giving up making weapons of war. Like, and they're talking about his stocks and things, and I genuinely.
Oh, that was good. Yeah.
I laughed at them quite a lot this time. I think a joke maybe Josh from 2018 2008 probably didn't care about. Adult Josh is like, oh yeah, this is actually quite funny. I forget how it happens. He just starts building an Iron Man suit.
Yeah, he must do.
Yeah, yes, because he sees a news report about the war in that country he's just come from, and he sees the Tony Stark weapons there.
Mhm.
And then decides he's got to start sorting them all out.
Yeah.
He goes through. He makes a silver suit, which is really cool.
Is that the Mark II suit?
Yeah, the Mark II suit, which has. What was I saw this scene in a. Oh, in the when I went to watch Spider-Man the other night, I saw the trailer for the Blue Beetle movie.
Oh yeah.
And it's got this exact same scene parodied where he flies up really high.
Oh, into the ice.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was like, oh yeah, I really like Iron Man as well. Thanks, DC. I really like this film from the Iron Man movie as well.
I've got to admit, I thought that Blue Beetle or whatever it's called looks really cool.
Yeah, it looks good. It looks like Iron Man. It really
Otherwise, it looks cool.
Yeah, it probably is. So yeah, he starts building these suits, starts going around blowing up some weapons. I know what that bad CGI is in relation to him. In the first proper suit up scene, when he's putting on the red and gold suit, some of the shots look amazing. Some of them look like some of the worst CGI ever. It's
when the machine's putting it on him.
Yeah, and there's close up details.
I think all the little pieces would look good. It's sort of like the mid shots,
yes,
where he's wearing when he's blatantly obviously wearing the top part of the suit,
yes,
and it's kind of matching onto the rest of it. I think is dated now. It doesn't work as well, but I remember being at the time oh my god, that's
again. This could just be a seeing it in HD thing.
Yeah, definitely. But I remember being that's so cool. After watching the Avengers, watching the suit up scenes, I think Iron Man has some really cool scenes.
It
just
does.
For that.
That definitely, and it is something that as we talk through them, I think every time, the first time Iron Man puts on a suit in all his movies is normally pretty, spectacular.
It's pretty epic, yeah.
Yeah. So he's going around blowing up these weapons. He does the classic, shoots a missile at something, walks away from the camera, it explodes.
Classic action movie scene.
Yeah. Then you start to get this theme that Jeff Bridges' character is trying to convince Tony that he shouldn't be worried that his legacy is weapons of war.
Mhm. He mentioned something that his dad worked on.
If he mentioned, I think he name drops the Manhattan Project. I think he does. And it's interesting that there is a few character moments in here where Tony is obsessed with, because he doesn't want people to know he's Iron Man at this point, just being this guy that goes around and essentially scrubs Stark weapons from the world, because he doesn't want that to be what Tony Stark is remembered for. It turns out that the person that wanted Tony to die was, again, someone just mentioned, who's super concerned with Tony's legacy, Jeff Bridges.
Surprise.
Yeah, again, and I remember not seeing it coming when I watched it as a child, but
yes, you say watched it when you was a child. Oh my god!
Yeah. I say child. I would have been 2008.
You would
I would have been 13.
Yeah, I was in my mid-20s, I think, when I first saw it. God, well, that was in 2012 after the Avengers. So.
Yeah, that's fine. You went on that mission from Interstellar and you aged quicker, so don't worry about it. Or slower. I'm gonna get my first hate mail about this. I've not seen Interstellar.
Same. I was literally about to go. I don't really know what you're talking about. I've not seen Interstellar.
In Interstellar, from my understanding, someone goes on a spaceship and someone gets older and someone doesn't.
Is that the one with Matthew McConaughey?
Yeah, where he does his sad cry face.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember it being like, oh, it's going to be at the Oscars. It's going to be a big one, and then I never heard anything about it again.
That's right. We're the particular type of film people that have seen all the Marvel movies but haven't seen all the Christopher Nolan movies.
We don't watch films very often.
No, well, again, that's the point of this journey, is to
watch more films.
Is
nice.
to expand repertoires.
Yeah.
So yeah, Tony, Jeff Bridges is evil, starts building his own Iron Man suit. I part of me was thinking that because the one that he's building is really big.
Yes.
And I was like, is that just because he got the scale wrong?
I think that is just to prove how amazing Tony is and how useless everybody else is, because he even says to the guy, it's like, he made this thing in a cave with a box of scraps, and you can't even make it with all this equipment.
Yeah, you can't make it with the billions of dollars we've got.
Exactly.
So then Tony and Jeff Bridges, I should have written down what his character's called.
I want to say Obi.
Yeah, he calls him Obi, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Tony and Toby Doby. They go and have a pretty big fight. It's like the kind of only fight scene in the movie.
Yes.
Like, there's bits where he's blowing up terrorists, but it's pretty one-sided. When a guy turns up in a $1 billion war suit that he built himself, and they've got like AK-47s, and then to me I was getting that kind of conflict of like, this is anti-war propaganda, but this is not propaganda. This is an anti-war film, but it is playing like pro-war propaganda, where it does make it look really cool to go to this foreign country and blow up all these foreign people.
Oh.
And it made me really clear to me why they stepped away from that.
Yeah.
Like, that is imagery I could not imagine in a Marvel film anymore.
No, I mean, they've touched on stuff like that lightly, but in ways that are like devastating to the people involved, rather than, oh my god, look at us shooting up on all these different countries.
Yeah. Yeah, so they have a big fight. There's an interesting political message here where Tony and Obi are fighting, and they these two billionaires blow up a bus that is promoting hydrogen power. It's got like powered by hydrogen, and then warm Ironmonger picks it up and smashes Tony with it. And I was like, that's weird imagery, isn't it? Then they end up on the Stark building. We meet Agent Coulson.
Mm-hmm. Lovely Phil.
Yeah, who's looking really young. Like obviously it's 20 years ago, but he is looking distinctly young.
Just little baby Phil.
Yeah. They make a joke every time he's introduced, because they use the full acronym, don't they? They're like the secret blah 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 blah.
Strategic Homeland and something Enforcement Logistics Division.
Yeah, well done, Lauren.
I nearly got it. I missed out one.
It's all right. You can get I'll add a getting a point noise for that. You can score a point for that, definitely. I don't get why they don't realise that spell shield.
We're working because he just goes like, "Oh, we're working on it."
Yeah, we're working on the name. It's like, well, it's clearly already the first thing a company would do is figure out an acronym.
We're working on it. Oh, we're working on how to spell.
Yeah. So they go to the Iron Man build. They go to the not Stark Tower, is it? It's just like one of the buildings with a big arc reactor in.
Mm-hmm.
They have a big fight. Pepper Potts, who is Iron Man's girlfriend, who's not been mentioned up until this point.
Is she worth mentioning?
She doesn't do anything in this movie other than be someone so you know Tony Stark's not gay, basically. It's like, just give him a woman that's in the movie. Like, and because these, to me, like, these early Marvel films are playing more off of classic action movie traits before they become like playing off comic book movies. They're just playing off action movies, and an action movie you just put a woman in it, don't you? So there's a woman there.
Yeah, that's all the women are good for.
Yeah, and Marvel were guilty of that for a very long time.
I think she humanizes Tony in a way.
Yeah.
She brings out his emotional side, and you can actually see that he actually deeply cares for her.
Yeah.
Even if she doesn't do much else in the film. I think she does bring out that emotional his human side rather than his, knobhead side.
Do you think the film passes the sexy lamp test?
The sexy lamp?
Yeah. Which is, if that character was replaced by a sexy looking lamp, would the film be exactly the same, basically?
I've not heard of this test before.
It's like a push on the it's not called the
Bechdel test.
Yeah. Because if this film does not pass the Bechdel test, I don't think there's two women in it in a scene together.
No, there is.
And who do they talk about?
They do talk about Tony. But they do talk about taking out the trash. They talk about Pepper's job, but that is working for Tony, unfortunately.
Yeah. For now.
I would say it, in my humble opinion, because I love Tony so much, I don't think if you replace Pepper with a sexy lamp, it wouldn't work as well. Because he has not. That thing to fight for, and he has that it's like she's a bit like his conscience, really.
Yeah. She's his Jiminy Cricket.
Yeah, and if she didn't nearly give him a heart attack, I mean, would he have just died with his old heart thing?
Yeah, I will say one thing. I do like the Tony's arc reactor powers him, and he makes a better one halfway through. And I do like the having to use the old one again.
Yeah. Like,
that is a nice kind of Chekhov's gun, essentially. Chekhov's arc reactor. That imagery of that, and then obviously plays back in much later in the Marvel films. And when we get there in 6 years' time, when we're talking about Endgame, we'll remember this. Yeah, so they have a big fight. Tony wins.
Mm-hmm.
There's a nice callback at the end when he's Tony rips up. I keep trying to call him War Machine. He rips up Ironmonger's targeting computer, and he can't shoot Tony because he can't aim. Earlier in the film, when Tony tries to use the same missile on his suit, he also misses. And again, I thought that was a nice callback as well. That apparently those big Iron Man suits are just really hard to aim in, so you do need a Jarvis. Tony, they blow him up. Well, they EMP him. That makes them fall into the arc reactor. That's gone.
Mm-hmm. Blue light into the sky.
The
start of the blue light into the sky.
Yes, this Marvel film's climax ends with a big blue light and a theme that they will again return to.
I need to count how many films have a blue light up into the sky.
You know what? We'll start a counter of it now. That's one. Iron Man 1 has a big blue light in it. Pardon me. We then cut to a press conference where Tony is got to say that he's not Iron Man. Then decides that he is going to say that in again a line that was also improvised. like because the film was meant to end with him denying it and then kind of half believing it, but on the set they were
he just blurted it out.
Yeah, and Kevin Feige was like, yeah, let's run with that. And that like changes the whole path of the MCU.
It's just crazy. I've gotten here that where he says, I am Iron Man.
Yeah.
That is, that is just his reckless personality. It's just him not actually thinking about what he's doing.
Yes.
Which is basically his whole personality.
Yeah.
And how he's ended up in all of his situations.
Yeah. Tony has learned a lesson from this movie. Yes. He's learned that making weapons of war are bad, so he's now going to spend the rest of his life making one very personal weapon of war that's just for him.
It's fine, because he's the only one using it.
Yeah, and I don't know how I feel about that ending now, but like, monkey brain me goes, yeah, that's fine, it doesn't matter. Like, he's clearly the good guy. But then other part of my brain goes, is it a good message to be like, Luke, only the billionaires should have access to the super weapons?
Well, this is what they go into that in Iron Man 2.
They do. But again, and it's in that film, spoiler alert, it's presented as, oh no, just the billionaires should have access to this. So the film then ends with the I Am Iron Man song. And I can't decide whether that's the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. It is a needle drop so obvious it would make James Gunn blush.
I don't know. I never really questioned it. I feel like
it works.
It works, and that Iron Man has its own theme, and the AC/DC kind of rock star kind of theme works really well for Iron Man. But now that that's happened, I couldn't imagine you trying to cover him up with any other songs. Really. Could you just imagine trying to put some other needle drop on that and you just be like, oh, it doesn't have the same sort of hitting you in the face.
I mean, you know what it could end with? Back in Black. That would make sense.
Yeah.
Does it have a post-credit scene?
Yes.
I genuinely can't remember.
I don't remember watching it, but doesn't Nick Fury come and speak to him?
Isn't that the? Yes, it is. Yes.
He just tells him he's got working on a thing. That's basically all he says.
And I remember recently seeing a cut version of that, which depended on whether Sony and Marvel merged, where he mentions the X-Men and Spider-Man.
What?
Yeah. That's some homework for you to Google. There's a cut version where Nick Fury mentions all these actual properties that Marvel could have had access to, but didn't until much later. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Oh, is the two post-credit scenes? Is the one? Does Agent Coulson go near Thor's hammer? Or is that or have I added that? Doesn't matter. No one knows.
Maybe that was Captain America or something. I don't know.
Yeah, impossible to know. Lost to history. So, let's do some scores for this film. Overall, so these are scores out of 5. Overall, I give the film a 4 out of 5.
Okay, I would say a 4.
Acting, I give it a 3.5 out of 5.
I'll give it a 4.
That's fair enough. I will say one thing.
I was just going to say Rhodey.
Yes.
Is -1.
Yeah, a gentleman who has not been mentioned at all because he leaves no imprint on the film.
I wrote some notes about Rhodey.
Yeah, please. I would love for you to get into these notes about Rhodey because again, earlier on we mentioned how much effort and enthusiasm everyone is putting into this film.
The first thing that I've written is Rhodes. I can see why they replaced him. And then I think there's another one where he sees a suit after he's helped Tony, and he's like, "Next time, baby," and I've put, "Ha ha ha, not for you."
Oh, leave that man alone. He's only a rich millionaire actor. He can't defend this.
Bless him.
So film 4, acting 3 points to 5. Editing for me is a 2. I would give it a 3, but it loses a point for using a wipe.
Yeah, I think it's just...
I absolutely hate wipes.
Yeah, but I feel like that was just kind of like a Star Wars-esque.
Oh yeah, it's the worst thing. It's one of the worst things about Star Wars is the fact that it uses wipes.
But it's just classic, isn't it? It is ugly, and I also hate it. But it's also kind of like a nod to that Star Wars kind of vibe. But yeah, I'll give editing a 3.
For cinematography, I gave it a 3.5. It loses some points because it's got some fucking god-awful zooms in it.
Where?
When that missile lands next to Tony, it zooms in on the word star.
Yeah, but I think this like the Star Wars kind of thing.
I don't think there's a single. You know what? Hate mail about this, people, please. I don't think there's a single zoom in Star Wars.
Really?
Yeah, zooms have to be done expertly to not look like the camera's just going, "Oh, we should probably be closer to that." You don't have to agree, Lauren. This is not a podcast.
I feel like it was purposely like that, not just that it didn't look shit on purpose.
Again, it is, as I was saying, it is playing on the cliches of older action movies.
Yeah.
Because it's a new ground that they are playing in. Not that they hadn't made superhero films before this, but they obviously were trying for something bigger. You know, Kevin Feige. This would have been Kevin Feige's like 6th or 7th superhero film, because he made all the X-Men, he made the Fantastic Four movies, and they're all pre-Iron Man.
Wow.
Yeah, and they're all awful.
I didn't realise he made all of those too.
Yeah, that's.
I didn't realise he'd been like that ingrained into everything. Like, it's literally Kevin Feige's universe, isn't it?
Yeah, well,
not the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's Kevin Feige's universe.
It's why he has so much swing. And you know, I think genuinely the secret ingredient to this film working so well is it brings up that Star Wars link. It's Jon Favreau.
Yeah.
He is a really, really talented director.
He is.
Again, you put Iron Man against Fantastic Four, and you go, these are different films entirely.
Starkly different films, yes.
Like, there is not so much with the Iron Man, not so much the Fantastic Four, but definitely with the X-Men film. There's a reluctancy to put those X-Men characters in suits that look like X-Men costumes, but there is no reluctancy to put Tony Stark in 100 different Iron Man suits, and each one looking like something out of a comic book.
Yeah.
Like, why has no X-Men film put the X-Men characters in yellow and blue, like, leotards?
I don't know. That's...
Like, and I think...
Not cool or aesthetically pleasing, maybe.
Well, I've got a thing about... But they miss a point by not doing that. This is going to be some nerd stuff right here in this Marvel podcast. Cyclops and Wolverine are on the same team, but they oppose each other constantly. And they represent that visually because Cyclops has a primarily blue suit with yellow accents, and Wolverine has a primarily yellow suit with blue accents. So they're in the same team colours, but they oppose each other visually. Those costumes were designed meticulously. Rogue, who doesn't really feel like she fits in, doesn't wear the blue and yellow suit. She wears that green jacket, doesn't she? Like, you know, like, this is those suits are doing something to tell characters. You know, and again, it's why they never put the Avengers in matching suits, because they're meant to look mishmashed and put together. You know.
Yeah, they are just sort of like an ensemble of are just random superheroes, aren't they? They're not supposed to be a actual team.
Exactly. Unlike the X-Men, who are a team, so they wear a costume. So cinematography 3.5 for me.
I will agree with you there. 3.5.
Sound is a 2.5.
Oh God! That Iron Man song really upset you that much?
Oh no! I was going to say one thing. The sound design in this film is phenomenal. Like they still use the sounds that they figured out in this film. That's how good they are.
Yeah.
What is awful is the score. Under every scene, there's just like a.
Now that you said that, I'm like, oh yeah, it's just a constant sort of like quite a fast beat.
Yeah, under everything.
Yeah.
And again,
I agree with you.
And I get that is we don't know whether this is going to work. It all needs to be exciting. It is a safety net to make everything compelling and moving forward. But it is.
Has he got a hero theme?
Yeah, I Am Iron Man or Back in Black.
No, but Spider-Man's got his own tune, and Captain America's got his own tune.
If there is one, I couldn't hum it for you. I think this is going to come up a lot in these Marvel films as well. They really struggle with score. I was thinking, I went to see Spider-Verse again the other day, and the music in that is so good. Every time, what I would call the Prowler theme, but then they used it for Spider-Man 2099. That synth hit when the bad guy appears is so
scary noise. Yeah. And I saw someone break that down on TikTok, and they said Gwen had her own theme, and that sort of came back in when she sort of returned, and then all of the Prowler theme, Miles's theme, and Gwen's theme all hit together to make this amazing sort of scary but yet really cool tune. That faded out the entire film. It was really awesome.
Yeah, and again, this film.
2008 was a weird time.
Yeah, there was a writer strike, wasn't there? Costume 5.
Yeah.
All for that Iron Man suit that they actually built. It looks so good. Every time he's wearing an actual piece of Iron Man armor, it is phenomenal, and it is a love letter to costume designers, and seeing the behind the scenes when they first walk that out and show it to Kevin Feige and stuff, and he can't believe how amazing it looks as well, and the fact they could get Robert Downey Jr. to wear it.
Just for that one film.
Yeah, just for that one film.
I'm never wearing this heavy piece of machinery ever again after this.
Yeah, but it just looks so good. And everyone else in the film's wearing a suit and a tie, and everyone looks really cool. Yeah. Obi's wearing a suit and a tie. Phil Coulson's wearing a suit and tie. Pepper is always wearing really nice.
Suit, yeah.
Yeah, everyone looks great.
It's wearing a lady suit basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pure business. That no one's ready to party. It's all business suit, isn't it?
Yeah, but genuinely a 5 for me. That suit is amazing, and I don't care how you feel about superhero films or comic book movies. To say, oh, that is just meh, is just looking so much craftsmanship in the eye and going, bleh.
Yeah. No, it's just the amount of work that's gone into even just to design all of the Iron Man suits, because there's certain things that you get from the comics, but making them fit and look cool on an actual person is just another massive job entirely, and they've done that in their first film for 3 different suits already.
Yeah. I'll say one thing. Can you never guess what happens when Tony and Obi are fighting at the end?
What?
Tony loses his mask.
Yeah.
So, for you guys listening at home, I have not a theory, because it's not a theory, because it's just true. In every superhero movie, in the climax of the film, the main character will lose their mask, like, or they won't be wearing one. Apart from Spider-Verse, which broke this trend eventually. But and again, we can make a tally this as we go along and go through the films. Because obviously it's very hard to... I first noticed this, like, watching the Spider-Man trilogy growing up, is that in the end of every Spider-Man film, Spider-Man loses his mask. And because it's really hard to emote behind that.
Yeah.
You know,
and it brings out... It shows you that he's a human underneath that suit.
Whereas in the comics, they just change the shape of his eyes so you could get all of his emotion. and they cut away from most of this with those really, and I'd say maybe one of the biggest legacies of this film is the inside of the helmet shots of Tony's face. Never seen anything like that before. Like,
no. That is like so one of the coolest things in that film. Like the CGI and how, like, I remember spending hours trying to figure out how they actually like recorded that.
From my understanding, it's on like a rig with like a Canon 5D, isn't it? Because it like moves.
I've never seen it.
Yeah, I remember reading about this because I remember writing some coursework about why we were shooting a film on a Canon and not a Red Epic super make my film good no matter what it looks like camera. And I remember researching that they use like 5Ds for stuff like that, where it's like you need to build a more interesting rig.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, where
something smaller.
Yeah. So that is Iron Man, the first of the Marvel movies. How do you think it dealt with the themes of legacy and everything? My money has made me evil. I'd say Tony does come across as genuinely. It makes him come across a little bit stupid that he didn't realise that the weapons of war he was making hurt people.
Yes. It's like, oh, it's okay, it's hurting people for America, it's fine. But when he realises, you know, that on the other end of that are actual people, like just ordinary people getting hurt, really just blew his mind. I think he thought past of his own little bubble and the things that he's done, and then that just set him on his new path.
Yeah, I agreed. You have to suspend the disbelief. Again, this is meant to be like the smartest guy on the planet, but he didn't have this realization sooner. But maybe there's a comment there that the wealthy only realized how dangerous their actions are when the mirror is held up to them. You know, maybe there's a comment there that he only realizes that what he's done is evil when it affects him personally.
Yeah.
Like,
because how he would have never realised it was evil unless he'd been shot with his own weapon.
Yeah. And then again, you've got Obi, who's obsessed with the Stark legacy, but not the name being a name of good, just how much money that has attached to it.
Yes.
And amazingly, that's a theme that's going to come up in our next film of The Menu. The Menu, 2013, plus 10 years, minus 1, 2022. Directed by a person whose name I didn't write down.
Well.
No, this is good. Like, this speaks to me. The way that we can talk so deeply about about Marvel films compared to most films is a comment on how most films don't get like a behind the scenes featurette anymore. Like, that is like a dying breed.
Yeah.
Like, and I would watch I remember being younger, and every film that DVD had like a how it was made on it, I'd just watch that as well.
I constantly watched the Mummy DVD.
Yeah.
And how they made that. And like they did how they did all the special effects, and the company like Industrial Light and Magic. Oh. And I was just like obsessed with like, there's a scene where the water comes up and there's faces in the water and it's chasing them down. Yeah. And I was just like, this is just, I loved every minute of learning and like how they did all this stuff. That having behind the scenes stuff is just amazing to watch.
thing, and that kind of stuff is probably what inspired me to get into filmmaking.
Yeah, me too, probably.
You know, and saying that Mummy film is so sexy. Like, it is such a sexy movie, isn't it?
I saw a meme about that the other day.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, look at these hot people in the Mummy.
It's but basically everyone in that film just like oozes sexuality, don't they? Especially that guy that gets his eyes eaten.
Oh.
Lauren would have laughed at that, but she was having a big drink.
Sorry.
It's all right.
I was trying to remember the guy, and then I was like, remember him just looking really ugly with his horrible eyes afterwards, and then I was like, that's not sexy.
You don't know me, Lauren. You don't know what I like. You see, that film does pass the sexy lamp test.
Yeah, you could replace Rachel Weisz with a sexy lamp.
You couldn't. Not a chance. Right, so the menu. Speaking of sexy films, here's a film about the least sexy group of people in the world, and Anna Taylor-Joy.
Yeah, she is the sexiest person in the room.
Yeah, I mean the bar is low.
That's true.
Yeah. I would say this is a wild thing to say, but I believe it in my heart. Ralph Fiennes' character of Chef, even though we found out that he did try and like have sexual relationships with one of his chefs later in the film, comes across to me as the most sexless person in the world. But do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
So the film starts with the TSG logo, which I only made a note of because I made a note of the Iron Man one.
What's TSG?
Whatever that film company's called, I don't know. There's a big sexy guy shooting an arrow. I don't even know whether he's sexy. I'm just thinking about it now.
Oh, I can't even think of what that is.
Oh dear. Anyway, so again, much like Iron Man, it's lots of character info dump at the beginning. Like the first 16 or so minutes is just all characterization. Like, and kind of for me, and I really liked this, and I understand people might not, kind of trying to figure out who the main character of the story is.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah, it's not really clear.
Because no one in the film is really more or less famous than anybody else. I guess maybe Nicholas Hoult and Ralph Fiennes, maybe. So Nicholas Hoult was in an X-Men movie. He did play Beast.
No, I think probably Ralph Fiennes and Anya Taylor-Joy are probably the most famous. But yeah, I know what you mean. You kind of see little snippets of all the characters. You don't really know who's gonna take the lead.
I mean, the biggest film star in it is John Leguizamo. Oh, so I butchered his name there.
Oh yeah.
That is an iconic. He's an iconic actor. Like, just is he in one of the Mummy movies? And if so, why not?
Oh, I don't know.
I feel like he could be. He's done some absolute trash. Not that the Mummy movies are trash.
They are kind of trash, but they're also kind of amazing.
They're trashy. So yeah. So we meet a group of people who are waiting to go on a boat to an island so they can go to a very exclusive restaurant called Hawthorne's. Everyone is an absolute arsehole.
This is literally what I've wrote down. All of the people are insufferable. Is this what rich people are actually like?
Yeah, this is maybe the biggest Eat the Rich film I've ever seen in my life, or very recent memory at least. It is so anti-wealth throughout all of it. It got to a point where I was like, are they actually going to eat a rich person in this? Like, is subtext going to become text?
That would have been a nice point to the film.
Yeah, but did you ever get that point at one point where they're going to eat somebody? Because I was genuinely in my first watch.
I was a bit worried that they were going to just sort of like serve up somebody.
Yeah. They take a boat ride over to an island, and they meet the sous chef. Is she the sous chef? I guess the second in charge.
I'm not sure.
We find out that Anna Taylor-Joy's character Margot is not meant to be there.
Yes.
Which comes as a shock to all the chef and staff. They walk around the island. You get a little bit of some kind of setting up stuff that's going to appear later, like the boat leaving, the smokehouse, the chef's house we get to see, and no one's allowed in chef's house.
No.
By this point, you are like, I hope everyone in this party dies.
Because they've already been so annoying. You want them all dead.
Yeah, they've been so rude to each other and the staff. Yeah. Like, I have always been a pro-service worker kind of guy.
Yeah.
But I think, especially in like a post-COVID world, which is even mentioned in this, like post where like restaurants were basically failing left, right, and centre, and service staff are out there, eating out to save the country, or whatever. Like, these people deserve respect and should be lauded as gods. Well, eat out to help out. That's what it was called, wasn't it?
Oh yeah.
Remember that? Remember when our
food was like half price.
Yeah.
Oh.
Our
so
now Prime
strange.
Minister was like, "Can you all go get COVID in restaurants, please?" So yeah,
Such a weird time.
my notes on the menu were a lot less thick than they are on Iron Man.
I mean, mine are barely a page, to be honest.
Yeah. So we go to the restaurant and they start to be served food. What did you think of the hero shots of the food?
It just reminded me of like MasterChef.
Yeah.
And things like that when they sort of like plonk. They do that sort of like little circle around the food and. Yeah, but it was just kind of like a little love letter to any sort of like, what's the word?
It's just
High,
food.
sort of like high food cooking show.
Elevated.
Yeah.
I can't decide whether I love or hate those hero shots, because they're doing that thing that they're reminding you of MasterChef and things like that, but it's obviously a very purposeful choice as well. It's not like they think they've invented that technique.
No. I think maybe it's probably to speak more about how much love and effort and work that the staff have put into making that food.
And at this point, I'd say by the time we arrive at the restaurant, we've kind of accepted that Nicholas Hoult and Anna are our main characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's a massive foodie. So part of me is like, oh, is that like his vision of the food, because he's obsessed with shows like that? So is that how he's imagining it? Because that's not how it's presented in the like reality of the film. They're like cutaways to the food, aren't they?
Yeah.
So there is some absolute beautiful B-roll in this film. I will say that, like shots of the island and like of the food and stuff, they're all like lovingly composed, and like the film looks really, really sharp.
Yes.
Like all the imagery is so crisp.
No, I agree.
I've only ever seen it streaming as well, so even through streaming it looks really sharp, and sometimes images don't, do they?
Yeah, no, it's got like this really sort of. It's just got like this very smooth, classical look over it. There's just not a lot of movement. There's not a lot of stuff. It's very static, but it's kind of smooth, if that makes sense.
Yeah, this, I don't mean this as an insult. The lot of the cinematography reminded me of like a high-class TV show.
Yeah. And I think that's what they're aiming for. Like,
yeah, again, is that a MasterChef
to be
thing?
that rich and go into that level of eating? That's what that's the imagery that you want to get across to people, isn't it?
I get at certain points, because basically the whole film takes place in this restaurant, on this one set. I got really strong like this is a play, like vibes from it. You know what I mean? Like I could see how it would work as a play.
Yeah, it would definitely work as a play.
And again, that's not an insult or to anything, because they're all valid forms of art. It was just also kind of confined.
Yes,
but it really worked.
Yeah, I think it would make a really good play, actually.
Yeah. So they're served the first dish, which is called the island, which is oysters and bits of sea salt and stuff. Nicholas,
You took some real in-depth notes.
No, I just remember this. This is either the CBD oil wearing off or kicking in. Watch as my descriptions of the food become less detailed as we continue. Nicholas Hoult is taking photos of the food, even though he's been
asked not to.
No,
because he's a scumbag.
Yeah, because all of them are scumbags. Every person has a scumbag. Let's talk about who there is. There's Nicholas Hoult and his date.
Yeah.
Who
he brought instead of his wife.
Yes, which will come up later. Nicholas, he's playing like a massive foodie, super obsessed with the experience. Has clearly saved up a lot of money to go. Like, because they say it's like 12. Is it? I forget. Because they say numbers weird in America. I can't tell whether it was $12,000 to go each, or $120, or $1,200 to go each.
Oh, I'm not sure.
Because they said $1,200, and
if it's $1,200, it would be like $1,200.
Yeah, which is expensive for a meal, but maybe cheap for a meal where you get to go on a boat. I don't know. There is free tech bros.
Oh yes.
Is that how you would describe them?
Yes. Well, I think they're like stock market bros or something. Yeah. They just they work in a lot of money.
They own like shares in the restaurant.
Yeah, and they're like their boss owns some knows the guy who works the chef.
Yeah, it is. They are there just because it's expensive.
Yeah. But they also feel like they're more deserving.
Yes.
Of the food than anyone else, I think.
Mm-hmm. There is a food critic and her assistant.
Yes.
Who is there because she's been invited.
Mm-hmm.
The only person who's been personally invited, I believe.
I think so. I think she's also eaten there before.
Yeah, she's eaten there.
She's had the chef's food before.
Yeah, she is famous for making him famous.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah. She is her at one point I think he says biggest fan, and then changes it to then when he refers to again like biggest critic. There is a wealthy older couple. I say wealthy. There is an older couple who have been there several times.
Yes.
And the husband a few more times than the wife.
Oh, I didn't get that he'd been there more times.
He'd been there with escorts.
Oh.
Yeah. And that didn't sink in for me. No, it's okay.
I just assumed they'd been there together like 11 times or whatever it said.
Oh, then John Leguizamo, who's playing a washed-up film actor, and his assistant are there as well. Oh, he's there because he's starting a travel food show, isn't he? And he's like thinks it's good practice. Maybe the assistant's not evil, although she does admit she's been like
stealing his money. And...
Yeah. I don't know. Is it evil to steal from an evil man? That's a question a good film would ask. Like the menu.
Yeah.
So yeah, they eat these oysters. They're dead nice. They then get served bread, no bread.
And they all think it's so funny.
Yeah, apart from Margot, who's like, "Oh, we're being
Where's
insulted.
The bread?
We're being insulted here." And she's right. They are all being insulted.
Uh-huh.
The food critic complains about a split emulsion.
Yeah, I wrote that down. I was like, she's complaining about this thing, and just put lol.
Yeah, not complaining about the element of the meal she's been denied. Yeah, they then get served taco night.
Yeah. I mean, is that what they called it?
Yeah, because it's Taco Tuesday.
I don't remember him saying that, but that was just like the strangest thing.
Yeah, and they get served tortillas, which have got laser cuttings of them, essentially. Some of them like committing crimes.
Crimes, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think the three like stock tech bros had like all their bank statements from the Cayman Islands, where they've been like hiding all their money. I can't remember what Tyler's was, and then the old lady had a picture of her husband cheating on her
in that restaurant,
like imprinted on this.
Yeah.
On this tortilla, like they've just been like put through a printer, which I found really funny.
I was very cool. It's like, oh yeah, you probably could laser etch onto tortillas. That's really clever, actually.
Just gives it a personalised experience for them all.
Nicholas Holt's are him taking photos at the dinner table.
Oh yeah, so they like took a picture of him taking pictures of the food.
And the critics is all the restaurants she's had closed down with bad reviews.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What was John Leguizamo's one? Was it a bad review?
His was a film poster for a film that will come up later.
Oh.
That'll spill for you now. Doesn't matter. I don't care. He's in a film called like Mr. Sunshine or Smiling. It's some play on that. And it's a film that he got to watch on his day off, like his first day off in months, and it was awful.
It wasn't a good film.
Yeah, but he thought actors were like him, and they were servers, and they were meant to put there because he puts his heart and soul into every dish he makes.
Yeah,
and he's like, this actor's put no heart and soul into his art. I think this is kind of the point where, the older gentleman asked to leave, so they cut his finger off. In a not very gory but quite horrific scene.
Yeah. I think, what did I put like here? The match cut, the finger and the knife.
Yes. I do wonder whether it's the psycho thing where you never actually see the knife touch him. It's just all edited so like cleverly that it implies it instead.
Don't you see the finger on the floor?
Yeah, but you don't see the knife go into the hand.
Through the finger, yeah. You don't need to.
Yeah,
I think the sound there is quite good.
Yeah, I remember
like,
the score.
The screams of his pain.
And then at this point, the food critic is convinced that the whole night's been put on for her.
Because she just couldn't be more deluded.
Yeah. Is at this point, I think Margot realizes that they're all going to die, and there's a really good thing where the film has been quite deep focus up until this point. And like the focus just crushes in to this lovely, super narrow depth of field. And it's like maybe one of the only, like, not to say that other shots aren't interesting, but it's probably one of the like only interesting shots in the film, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like the cinematography is just like seeing it's just really clean and cut off.
Yeah.
Like I would describe Wes Anderson's cinematography as mostly like really clean and cut off, and the shots aren't interesting, are they? But that doesn't mean they're bad. They're just
I think the shots are like sort of like very straight and very square, but everything in the shot is what's interesting.
Exactly,
and not the shot itself.
Yeah, that's this film, and obviously Wes breaks that rule all the time. Grand Budapest Hotel, which has got Ralph Fiennes in, funnily enough, has got a lovely shot of when this character's riding on a carousel and there's all these lights moving behind her, and it's just a cutaway, and it's gorgeous, and it's so good. Speaking of Ralph Fiennes, his performance in this is amazing. Like, I loved this. Well, how did you find him?
I
Equally as amazing.
feel
right?
like he was channeling a little bit of Voldemort
Yeah.
into that dude, and every time he did something a little bit weird, I was like, oh, here comes Voldemort. I just felt like he was gonna whip out his wand.
You might be having an issue I have with the main character from the Full Monty. I can't remember his name. Do you know who I mean?
Yeah, begins
that
with an
actor.
R, with the blonde dude.
Yeah, he's kind of blondie in that, isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah.
The first film I saw him in was a docudrama where he played Hitler. so
And I've never seen him as anything other than Hitler ever again.
Yeah, literally, like it's
No,
something
because I've seen him in like Ralph Fiennes in Grand Budapest Hotel, and he's brilliant in that, and he just doesn't in the slightest bit remind me of Voldemort, but he just had this sort of like undercurrent of Voldemort in there.
Yeah, maybe he was channeling some of that from the same place. I'll say everyone's performance in this is again really, really good. I don't think anyone is. Even all the side chefs are like really, everyone has acted so well.
Yeah, I think I like all of the chefs had a really strong character to them, even though they were just sort of like the little chef here and there doing all these little bits in the background.
Yeah,
when some of them did speak, they had like this really strong characterization.
Oh yeah, there's this clap that he does in between courses, and I loved the sound design on that.
It was so loud and like it cut through everything, which was really cool. But one thing I did write down is like the choreography of the chefs moving around, and like it was almost like a little dance.
Yes.
Of them preparing the food, which I really, really loved.
Again, maybe that's where I was getting that like stage play theatre vibe from, because it was so like saying like it was like movement and dance and everything.
Yeah.
So everything goes on. They keep getting served like more Baroque courses, basically. Like I said, the descriptions will get vaguer. At one point, all the men get a chance to escape the island.
Well, so they think.
Yeah, well, he seems like if they get away, they can go. At no point is he like. He's like, you're going to get a chance to escape. You've just got to. We're just going to try and find you and catch you. Then there's that great shot of one of the tech bros hiding in a chicken hutch, and I was like,
isn't that was that the critic's assistant?
Sorry, yes, and I was like, oh yeah, because he's a chicken, because he just agrees with everything this woman says. It's like
so he's hiding with the chickens. That's clever.
It's such an obvious metaphor, but it's clever. Like obviousness does work, doesn't it?
Didn't they give him some sort of like chocolate egg or something?
Oh yeah, he gets to. Yeah, all the women get to eat a course that Nicholas Holt's like staring through a window, trying to see what they've got. And then he gets like a special egg or something. It keeps going on. I forget why he does this, but Chef asks Nicholas Holt to prepare a meal. Oh yes, after it is revealed that he knew everyone was going to die that night. Yes.
Yeah. And he willingly picks up some unsuspecting woman to bring with him, which, just shows how much he values other human beings.
Yeah. And so he invites him into the kitchen because he loves food so much, to prepare a meal. And he fucks it up because I forget the comment is like, he's got like no actual passion for it. like for cooking. It's just like it's everything about it's so technical to him that it's not actually about making food or even enjoying eating it.
No, it's all just pompous and it's probably more of a status thing. But I just remember how much sweat was pouring off him. I was like, ugh. I could just imagine that food just tasting like sweat and tears. It was awful.
Yeah, it's kind of maybe it's a joke in that he's like put his own blood, sweat, and tears into it, and it's still shit. Like it's this point, Chef Ralph Fiennes has revealed that everyone there, apart from Anna Taylor-Joy, is there because they've played a part in ruining his life and ruining everything that he stands for. So saying like again, like we said, John Leguizamo was in that bad movie you got to watch. That businessman had been there 14 times and couldn't name a single meal they've eaten.
Yeah.
He hated that he was making people like that woman critic famous because she was getting famous for talking about his food.
Yeah, and then she was simultaneously ruining other people's lives.
Yeah. Like every person there, and the tech bros were were all about money and making the restaurant all about making money. Like every person there was destroying the legacy of him and his restaurant.
Yeah, I mean, what was his boss like? The boss like? Did he? I can't remember what part he played. Did he give the chef the money?
Yes.
To start the restaurant.
And then during COVID, wanted him to use cheaper products.
Oh.
Margot is kind of presented with this dilemma. Oh yeah, Nicholas Hoult kills himself.
After that awful show in front of all those people. Ugh.
Yeah. And there's a really clever joke you don't see a lot in a film. It tells a joke using text on screen, because every time we've seen a dish, it like describes the dish, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And then when he makes his, it's called like Nick's bullshit or
Tyler's bullshit. Yeah,
Tyler's bullshit. And it's like I love it when a film uses like all the elements of making a film to do something. Like that's using text on screen to tell a joke, and that's so clever. Like, Margot asks whether she is it a giver or a taker? Is that how he describes it or something? It's essentially that, isn't he?
Yeah. Essentially that they go back into is in his office or something.
Yes.
Where he describes like how like givers and takers, and they say that you're not one of them, or you need to decide whether you're one of them or one of us.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter which she decides because she's going to die anyway.
She's going to die anyway. But it's important to hit the chef which side she's going to die on.
Yeah, that is, it speaks to him that that scene to me made him not evil in my eyes. Because it's like, oh, this is not just murder to him. This is actually important.
Yeah. This is sort of like cleansing his soul.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, we end that imagery on like cleansing fire, don't we? Which we'll get to. Like, it's all about the cleanse. So Margot is asked to go to a house to pick up a big barrel. But then she's attacked by the other sous chef.
Yeah, because she wants to do the job.
Yeah, because she thinks that Margot's there to replace her. And you think, why would you be worried, love? You're going to be dead in 2 hours.
That's true.
But again, because she's part of Chef's team, she's putting everything about herself into the food. Yeah. So even if she is going to die, it doesn't matter. She doesn't want to be replaced because she wants to be the best. And the film, at the end here, does become a bit of a video game because she kills the mini boss. Then she gets a silver key where she gets to go to the final boss's secret lair.
Well, she sneaks into the secret lair, doesn't she? And this is where she gets her like secret weapon, isn't it?
Yeah, with one of the most lovely bits of subtle storytelling ever, where she's looking at these photos of Chef throughout his career going back in time, and she notices when he was a fry cook, he's smiling, and in no other photo is he smiling. And I was like, that is not said out loud. It's very obvious, but it's just
that's
nice.
Subtext, isn't it?
Yeah. It's so nice. She didn't look down the lens and go, I think he used to enjoy being a fry cook. and a lesser film would make the character say that.
Yeah. Can you imagine if they just spoke the entire subtext of this film out loud?
Yeah. So then she goes back to Chef with a big barrel, and then she says she wants to complain. And he's like, what? And he's like, she's like, the food's been awful and I'm really hungry.
Mm.
And he's like, well, what do you want me to make? I can make you anything in the world. And she asks for a cheeseburger with American cheese. And Ralph Fiennes does. I love the turn on his face when he realizes he's going to make a burger.
Yeah.
And it's
like, I've just been waiting for this day for so long.
Yeah. And it's the first time we see him cook the whole film as well.
Yes.
Like, he's not even really touched a piece of food up until this point where he has to make a cheeseburger and some curly fries.
And then you see like all that passion,
and
all that love for cooking is there.
You get that lovely hero shot of the burger as well, because it's just as important as all the other food we've seen. And then she has a bite, says it's really good. He's like, yeah, of course it's good. Then she asks whether she gives him $10, asks whether she can go. And he's like...
She's like, yeah, can I take this home with me?
Yeah.
Can I have a doggy bag or whatever it is?
Yeah, and he's like, yeah. And I did not see that coming. I'll say one thing about this film. I know that we've spoilt it for you here listening, but I could not predict anything this film was doing or where it was going to go.
No, it was just completely all over the place. You just didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah, and
from one meal to the next.
Yeah, it was so good, and I'm glad we spoiled it for everyone listening. So there she gets off on a boat and drives away, as the final dish is served of s'mores.
Oh, and what does he call it? He says it's like the worst piece of American food.
Yeah, it's like the worst biscuit with the worst chocolate on like, he says the worst bit of marshmallow you've ever had, but you combine all three together with fire and it cleanses them of their disgustingness and makes it something sweet and delicious. So everyone puts on these chocolate hats and these marshmallow necklaces. Actually, more like marshmallow straitjackets, I guess.
Yeah.
And
then what they put loads of things all over the floor. Is it like chocolate sauce and stuff?
It's like chocolate sauce and graham cracker, isn't it? And like,
yeah, and it's beautiful pattern all over the floor.
And then they burn the restaurant to the ground, and you get that final hero shot of the restaurant on fire, but it's again presented as a dish, and it tells you all the ingredients. And one of the ingredients is just the restaurant, isn't it?
Is the chef already dead at that point?
No, he just stands there and watches it burn.
In the middle of the fire.
Yeah, because remember, earlier on, it's presented that he's got asbestos hands, like all chefs, and nothing can burn him. So he picks up the hot coals from the fireplace and throws it into like a tub of gasoline in the middle of the room.
Yeah.
And the cleansing fire cleanses his legacy and burns the restaurant to the ground. And it ends with her wiping her mouth with the physical menu.
Physical menu. I really didn't think she was going to eat the rest of that burger.
No. It looked good, though. Iron Man and the menu both linked by cheeseburgers.
Maybe that should have just been the film, the themes. Cheeseburgers.
I mean, looking at the list we have written, some of them are as linked as tedious as that. Let's do some scores for this movie. The film, out of 5 for me, gets a 4.
Yeah, I'd say a 4 too.
The acting gets a 5.
I'm going to say 4.5.
Because of Voldemort.
Not just because of Voldemort, but I this is no fault of his own. I really struggle to like Nicholas Hoult in anything. And I don't know why. He's just like plays the same dude all the time.
Well, luckily in this film, you don't have to like him.
No, it just makes him more irritating and unlikable, which makes it worse to watch.
The editing for me, I've given it a 3.
Yeah.
Like nothing to write home about, but nothing to complain about. Editing's always a hard one because good editing is invisible.
Exactly. I was just about to say that. I was like, if you don't notice the editing, they're doing a good job.
Yeah. I just can't praise it, but I also can't insult it. So a 3 feels fair. The cinematography gets a 3 for me. Again, just really nothing to complain about, but nothing to praise.
Yeah, I'd say 2.5. I mean, it's kind of a very grey film.
Yes, it was its colour palette is certainly brown and grey.
Yeah.
Again, loved all the hero shots of stuff and loved all like the close-up detail things, but again, TV shows do that now. This is a film; it's meant to be a film, above that. Yeah. Sound again. I gave a 3.
Yeah, I'd give it a 2.5.
Again, I couldn't hum you a line of the score.
No.
But and for costume, I gave it a 2.5. No one's costume did any storytelling or anything, or nothing was particularly impressive. Apart, I guess Margot was wearing boots, and that made her a bit different. But
prostitute boots.
Yeah, is that a thing?
I don't know. Yeah, I'd say just a 2. There's nothing overly exciting or.
Shall we tally up our final scores for both of the films?
Let me just test my math skills here.
No way. Okay. So for a possible score out of, would it be 25? 5 times 5?
Yes.
What did Iron Man get for you?
22.5.
It got 20.5 for me.
Oh, okay.
So giving it a total of 45? No.
42.5. 43?
43, yeah, that's bad. Yeah. So Iron Man gets a 43.
Out of 50.
Yeah, out of 50. What did the menu get for me?
For you?
Yeah, for you.
Oh, 19.
20.5.
So they're just as good as each other.
But this is the democracy that we live in. So, and the grand total is more important than the individual vote.
Okay.
So, Lauren, can you reveal to me, as we come to the end of the review portion of this episode of Marvellous, is the Marvel Cinematic Universe better than the rest of cinema?
In this one episode, it is. I think so. Iron Man has a total score of 43, and the menu has a total score of 39.5.
You let us down, the menu. Maybe if
you should have added one interesting shot in the entire film. I think it's a good start. We'll just have to see how it goes.
Yeah, it's a good start for Marvel, certainly.
Yeah.
Okay.
On the top of the leaderboard.
Yeah. Woo! Okay. Mm-hmm. So we'll move on to letters from our listeners. They're all questions.
The questions from our listeners.
Yeah, I guess they're questions from our listeners, yeah. Question number 1 is, if Tony Stark was a car manufacturer, what would be his car's USP, unique selling point?
Oh, if Tony Stark was?
Yeah. This is Iron Man 1 Tony Stark, I assume, as well.
I think it would just be like an in-car display. That just had loads of buttons that did loads of cool stuff.
Yeah. For me, it would be a slot for your new iPhone.
just got the latest iPhone. I got rid of my flip phone. I need to pop for that sweet iPhone.
Okay, in 5 years' time, the charging port on this car is going to be redundant.
It's like I've invented wireless charging. Why are these phones not wireless yet?
That was from Rich in Nottingham.
Oh, thanks,
Right.
Rich.
Okay, the next two questions are from Jim from his barge. Question number 1 is what kind of cheese do you think best represents Hull?
I've never been to Hull.
No, me neither.
I don't know. I've never heard good things about Hull, in all fairness. So, what's a really terrible cheese?
This is giving away all my weaknesses to the internet. I am lactose intolerant, so all
So,
cheese is bad.
Cheese is bad. I can't even think of any types of cheese that are terrible. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just going to say something very bland, like Red Leicester.
Yeah, some kind of mild red Leicester. And the last question from Jim on his barge is if Squirrel Girl was to get an ice cream, would she eat the cone first and the ice cream bit be a bit disappointing, or would it be the other way around? Do we know much about Squirrel Girl?
I do know a little bit about Squirrel Girl because my son has her in one of his books. Her name's Doreen. I think Doreen Green.
Doreen Green, that's lovely.
I think. I could be wrong. And she has a tail and squirrel ears, but she doesn't care because she's cool.
From my understanding, the joke of Squirrel Girl is that she never loses a fight.
Oh.
Like, she's like beating Thanos and people like that, because the kind of punchline of that character is that she can't lose, I think. Or at least in the mainline Squirrel Girl comics.
She punches Thanos.
And she beats him.
What?
Yeah, the unlike the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the Marvel Comics canon is a bit loosey-goosey.
That's just crazy to me.
So do you think she'd eat the cone? Do you think she'd enjoy the cone of the ice cream more than the ice cream or not?
I feel like she'd eat the cone and leave the ice cream.
Yeah,
I would imagine a squirrel had quite sensitive teeth to the cold.
Yeah, and also maybe she's super lactose intolerant. Maybe the one thing she can't beat is dairy. Do you think Iron Man would have been better if when he ate that cheeseburger on that plane, that actually kind of solved everything for him and he was all right?
Oh, all of his problems were just like, I don't have PTSD.
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm good with this cheeseburger. I solved all my problems. I'm just going to carry on living my life how I was.
Better or worse?
I don't think. I think he needed to eat that cheeseburger and realise, that he does have. Well, I don't even think he realised he had PTSD at that time.
No. Do you think the menu would have been better if Chef Ralph Fiennes built a super robot suit and flew around and blew up all the people that wronged him?
I mean, that's one way. He wanted to kill them all anyway. That's just one way of doing it quicker.
Right. That's enough of this nonsense. If you have any questions, complaints, or love letters, please send them to us at the Marvellous Podcast at gmail.com. You can find me on the social medias at Really Cool Films at everything.
And I am just a Skyburner and everything. Spell that however you want, and if you're lucky, you'll find me.
You know what, Lauren? It's been fun, and I'm looking forward to the rest of this journey. It's a goodbye from me, Josh.
And goodbye from me, Lauren.
This is the end of the show. then the theme music plays, right? And then Ralph Fiennes blasts through the wall.
With the diamond suit.
Yeah, that's like a... I'm going to cut this, it doesn't matter.